Thank you, and good morning to everyone for being here. Before we begin the council session today, I'm just going to make a couple of following announcements. Due to the continuing threat to public health from COVID-19 and the Delta variant, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, the Inquirer, and the Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting. It can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance, just say a couple of words to make sure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President.
I think Bass is here. Yeah, Councilwoman Bass. Okay.
I am present. I am present. Thank you. I apologize. I'm having difficulties this morning with technical difficulties, but I am present. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Councilwoman Brooks.
I'm present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Morning, Council President, colleagues, and the listening public.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues in Philadelphia. Present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the city of brotherly love and sisterly effectiveness.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Heenan.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Sending out prayers to all families who have lost their loved ones to senseless gun violence.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues in Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues. Present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the listening public. I'm present.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
And good morning and present, and good morning to everyone. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Pastor Nicholas O'Rourke of the Living Water United Church of Christ. He is here today as the guest of Councilwoman Brooks. I would ask all members and guests to please bow your heads for the invocation.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, City Council. Good morning, Philadelphia. St. Theophan the Recluse reminds us that prayer is the breath of the soul. Let us pray. Holy One. The words of Alfred Lord Tennyson in his piece Ulysses are brought to my remembrance this morning. Even as the light begins to twinkle from the rocks, the long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices, saying, "Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world." We, like most people, mistake the limits of our minds with the limits of the world. More so the limits of the world with the limits of you, God. Help us to know the difference, even when others don't. When we think on it, we can see that precisely in that difference is where the work of these leaders is found and nourished. Help us to overcome whatever limiting beliefs, anxieties, or fears they may quietly harbor, that they might recognize that it's past time for us to overcome our fear of freedom, that it's high time to begin forging freedom out of the time and space and resources and relationships that they currently have. Help them, each and every one of them, to see freedom, liberty, and justice as the goal of their leadership and their legislating, as the goal of their street naming and their bridge naming. And help us to hear the words of Bishop Romero, who says that there are many things that can only be seen through the eyes of those who have cried. So may all of them have the grace and wisdom to act kindly, learning to distinguish between what is personal and what is not. May they be hospitable to criticism. May they never put themselves at the center of things. May they act not from arrogance, but out of service. May they work on themselves as we all must, building up and refining the ways of their mind. May those who work for them, their staff, know that they are seen and respected by these leaders. May they learn to cultivate the art of presence in order to engage with those who they meet. When someone fails them, as will happen, or disappoints them, as is sure to happen, may the graciousness with which they engage be their stairway to renewal and refinement. May they treasure the gifts of the mind through reading and creative thinking, so that they can continue as a servant of the frontier. May the new will draw its enrichment from the old. And may they never become just a functionary. May they know the wisdom of deep listening, the healing of wholesome words, the encouragement of that appreciative gaze that they gave, the decorum of held dignity, the springtime edge of the bleak question. May they have a mind that loves frontiers so that they can evoke the bright fields that lie beyond the view of the regular eye. May they have good friends to mirror their blind spots. And may leadership be for them a true adventure of growth. These things we pray in the many names in which you are recognized, Holy One. And we say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. We really appreciate you being here today. Thank you. Our next segment and our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting Thursday, December the 2nd, 2021, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting on Thursday, December 2nd, 2021 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, December 2nd, 2021 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the ayes have it, and our journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to Councilwoman. And again, the Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning certain legislative matters that may arise during the course of today's session of Council and that were not listed on the calendar circulated prior to today's session.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that any of the following matters, if considered today, be added to the agenda for this session of council and, as required by law, subsequently published on an amended agenda after the consideration of those matters: resolutions authorizing hearings, amendments to bills on first reading, the reconsideration of a bill vetoed by or recalled from the mayor, resolutions taking substantive action to be voted on in this session, a motion to withdraw a bill or resolution that is not on the calendar, and the motion placing a bill or resolution on or returning a bill or resolution from the suspension calendar that is not listed on today's calendar. The purpose of this motion is to provide the public with notice concerning possible actions by council that arose too late to be included on the calendar that was published prior to today's session.
His package never came
Second.
today.
Second.
Everyone mute themselves. Thank you. Thank you. It has been moved and probably seconded that the legislative matters stated by Councilwoman Parker will be added to the agenda for today, should those matters arise during the course of this session of council. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
On there, so.
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. And I ask,
Mr. President, I'm sorry. I just wanted to note for the record that if people could make sure that they are on mute. The president just asked that, but someone was still off of mute. Thank you so much.
thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. Our next order of business is communications. And Mr. Decker, please read the messages from the mayor and any other communication that you may have in your possession.
From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia. I'm pleased to advise you that on December 8, 2021, I signed the following bills which were passed by council at its session on December 2, 2021. Bill number 210776 and 210900. And I am transmitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the second councilmanic district of the city of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties. And a resolution reappointing Bernie A. Prezenica to the Board of Directors of the City Avenue Special Services District of Philadelphia and Lower Merion. And a resolution reappointing J. S. Feldstein to the Board of Directors of the City Avenue Special Services District of Philadelphia and Lower Merion. And a resolution confirming the appointment of Sophia Lee as a member of the Board of the Philadelphia Energy Authority to serve in the term ending January 1, 2023, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. And our next order of business is their introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we're asking that all resolutions, including privilege resolutions, be placed on the final passage calendar for the next session of council, unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide the appropriate opportunity for public comment. I want to thank you very much in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of the legislation that's being offered today by our members.
Yes, Mr. President. Councilwoman Parker offers 9 resolutions. On behalf of Council President Clark, a resolution recognizing and congratulating WHYY and the News and Information Community Exchange Collaborative on their steadfast commitment to diversify local news sources and empower local BIPOC and underserved communities through grassroots news.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing, also on behalf of Council President Clark, a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2929 North 13th Street, located in the 5th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
On behalf of Council President Clark, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And on behalf of Council President Clark, a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 1335 North 8th Street, 1401 North 8th Street, and 1402 North 30th Street.
Next week's calendar.
And on her own behalf, Councilwoman Parker offers a resolution honoring Philadelphia VIP on the special occasion of its 40th anniversary. And a resolution honoring the Philadelphia Lawyers for Social Equity on the special occasion of its 10th anniversary.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution commending Patricia Wilson Aiden on her appointment as president and CEO of the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution honoring the Local Initiative Support Corporation on the special occasion of its 40th anniversary.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution commending the Black Promoters Collective on their official formation as a 100% Black-owned organization.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers on behalf of Council President Clark a resolution also naming the 1500 block of West Cabot Street from 15th Street to 16th Street Vivian Van Story Way to honor and commemorate the life of Vivian Van Story and her lasting impact on her North Philadelphia community.
Next week's calendar.
Also on behalf of Council President Clark, a resolution also naming the 2500 block of West Stewart Street from 25th Street to 26th Street, Warren McMichael Way, to honor and commemorate the life of Warren McMichael and his lasting impact on the Brewery Town Sharswood community.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Jones offers 5 resolutions. Entitled a resolution recognizing and honoring Terrence Foley for 15 years of committed service as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the City Avenue Special Services District of Philadelphia in the 4th Councilmanic District. And a resolution recognizing and honoring the legendary sports journalist Donald Hunt on the occasion of his retirement after over 30 years of writing for the Philadelphia Tribune.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution recognizing and honoring Al Schmidt for his 10-year tenure as a Philadelphia City Commissioner and wishing him well as he begins a new chapter in his career as President and Chief Executive Officer of the Committee of 70.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution reappointing J.S. Feldstein to the Board of Directors of the City Avenue Special Services District of Philadelphia.
To the committee.
And a resolution reappointing Bernie A. Presenica to the Board of Directors of the City Avenue Special Services District of Philadelphia and Lower Merion.
For the committee.
Councilman Johnson offers 3 resolutions. Entitled a resolution authorizing the Special Committee on Gun Violence to prevent, authorizing the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention to conduct hearings to examine the correlation between domestic violence and gun violence.
This week's calendar.
And a resolution calling on the General Assembly to prohibit the use of deadly force to make a citizen's arrest.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title of 1306, 1308, 1310, 1312, and 1329 South 21st Street, 1303 South 23rd Street, 1306 South 28th Street, 1213 South Bonsall Street, 1148 South Cleveland Street, and 2632 Ellsworth Street.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Brooks offers 1 resolution, entitled a resolution recognizing the work and contributions of labor and grassroots community activist Ronald Whitehorn, whose leadership and mentorship has inspired generations of activists and leaders in the city of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gautier offers 1 resolution, entitled a resolution designating Tuesday, December 21, 2021 as National Homeless Persons Memorial Day in the city of Philadelphia.
Calendar.
Councilman Squilla offers 1 resolution entitled a resolution honoring, congratulating, and thanking Frank DeChico on the occasion of his retirement from the Zoning Board of Adjustment and his many years of service to the citizens of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman O offers 1 resolution entitled a resolution proclaiming January 13, 2022 as Korean American Day in Philadelphia to celebrate and commemorate the proud heritage of Korean Americans and their invaluable contributions to enhance the city's culture, economy, and the founding ideals of independence and democracy.
Next week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. And our next order of business is reports from the committees, and the chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a report from the Committee on Rules. Councilman Johnson.
Mr. President, on behalf
Thank
of...
you, Council President.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Council President, I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading of this bill of bills numbers 210899, 210922, and 210926.
All right, Councilman, just report the bills out first, the favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading of this bill of numbers 210899, 210222, and 210926.
Mr. President and
Yep.
Councilmember Johnson, we just report the three bills out with a favorable recommendation.
I missed that. I apologize. Thank you, Council President. The Committee on Rules reports out three bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Please read the report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Rules, to which is referred Bill number 210899, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 14-1000 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Historic Preservation, to establish a temporary demolition moratorium with respect to properties in the area bounded by Henry Avenue, Roxborough Avenue, Silverwood Street, and Fountain Street. And Bill number 210922, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Fountain Street, Umbria Street, Paoli Avenue, Ridge Avenue, Livesey Street, Valley Avenue, and Henry Avenue. And Bill number 210926, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land within an area bounded by Crispin Street, Willits Road, Academy Road, and Frankfurt Avenue. Respectfully reports, it has considered and amended the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson.
I got it right this time. Watch this. Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading of this day of bills numbers 210899, 210922, and 210926.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman. It's been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210899, 210922, and 210926. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. And these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. The chair now recognizes Councilman Green for a report from the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Council President. The Committee on Finance reports out three bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Finance, to which is referred Bill number 210782, entitled an ordinance amending Bill number 210320, entitled an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2022 through 2027 inclusive by adding, revising, and or removing certain projects, amounts, and sources for the purpose of providing safe play zone security cameras. And Bill number 210783, entitled an ordinance amending Bill number 210321, entitled an ordinance to adopt a fiscal 2022 capital budget by adding, revising, and or removing certain projects, amounts, and sources for the purpose of providing safe play zone security cameras. And Bill number 210864, entitled an ordinance amending subsection 192604, subparagraph 6 of the Philadelphia Code, credit for contributions to community development corporations, nonprofit organizations engaged in developing and implementing healthy food initiatives, and nonprofit intermediaries, to clarify the number of contribution agreements that may be entered into. Respectfully reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 210782, 210783, and 210864.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210782, 210783, and 210864. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. And these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a report from the Committee on Law and Government.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Law and Government reports out one bill and one resolution with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Law and Government, to which is referred Bill number 210669, entitled an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of the proposals set forth in a resolution approved by council, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to revise the composition of the Zoning Board of Adjustment by increasing the number of appointees, providing for confirmation by council of appointees, and specifying qualifications that appointees must possess, and authorizing the appropriate officers to publish notice to make arrangements for the special election. And resolution number 210692, entitled a resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to revise the composition of the zoning board of adjustment by increasing the number of appointees, providing for confirmation by council of appointees and specifying qualifications that appointees must possess, and providing for the submission of the amendment to the electors of Philadelphia. Respectfully reports it has considered and amended the same and returns the attached bill and resolution to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill number 210669.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210669. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. This bill will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. The resolution number 210692 will be placed on the final pass calendar at our next session of council. The chair now recognizes Councilman Thomas for a report from the Committee on Streets and Services.
Thank you, Council President. The Committee on Streets and Services reports out 9 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Streets and Services, to which is referred Bill number 210629, entitled an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades in a portion of City Plan number 120 by striking from the city plan and vacating Nicholas Street and Turner Street, each from 20th Street to 21st Street. And Bill number 210867, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 122700 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Permit Parking Districts, by amending the boundaries for Permit Parking District 19. And Bill number 210918, entitled an ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on Camac Street between Wagner Avenue and Fisher Avenue. And Bill number 210919, entitled an ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on East Godfrey Avenue between Somerdale Avenue and Pratt Street. And Bill number 210921, entitled an ordinance authorizing various encroachments at 3536 Calumet Street. And Bill number 210929, entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Day Street and Wildey Street, Thompson Street and Columbia Avenue, Oxford Street and Belgrade Street, East Montgomery Street and Thompson Street, Columbia Avenue and Belgrade Street, Free Street and Thompson Street, Belgrade Street, and Oxford Street. And Bill number 210930, entitled an ordinance amending Section 5 of an ordinance, Bill number 200423, approved November 10, 2020, entitled an ordinance authorizing Keystone Property Group to construct, own, and maintain a proposed exterior building ramp at 100 South Independence Mall West by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein. And Bill number 210931, entitled an ordinance amending Section 5 of an ordinance, Bill number 200092, approved March 11, 2020, entitled an ordinance authorizing Independence Park Hotel to construct, own, and maintain a proposed exterior building ramp at 235 Chestnut Street by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein. And Bill number 210932, entitled an ordinance authorizing various encroachments on North Broad Street in the vicinity of 1344 through 1348 Arch Street. Respectfully reports that it's considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit first reading this day of the 9 bills that were just read into record by the clerk.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the reading the 9 bills that were just read by the clerk. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Thank you very much. The chair now recognizes Councilman Jones for a report from the Committee on Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Safety reports 1 bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
The Committee on Public Safety, to which is referred Bill number 210923, entitled an ordinance amending Title 9 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Regulation of Businesses, Trades, and Professions, by adding a new chapter, 95700, entitled Prohibition on Certain Gambling Machines and Skills Games, to prohibit the operation of any casino style or skill game that accepts cash payment for the chance of a cash reward and is not otherwise regulated by the state of Pennsylvania. Respectfully reports it is considered the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit first reading this day of bill number 210923.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading this day of bills number 10923. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and the bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. The chair now recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier for a report from the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless reports out one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless, to which was referred Bill Number 210920, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 9800 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Landlord and Tenant, to provide for an eviction diversion program, to make associated changes related to the landlord and tenant relationship, and making certain technical changes. Respectfully reports that it has considered and amended the same, and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill number 210920.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210920. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the ayes have it. Bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. That concludes our reports from committee. And our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had their first reading. And these bills will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning the resolution on the final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following resolutions on the final passage calendar. They are resolutions numbers 210962, 210963, 210964, 210965, 210967, 210968, 210969, 210972, 210973, 210974, 210975, 210976, and 210977.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the resolution just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. The motion carries, and we will consider the resolution consent agenda shortly. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning the bills on the second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following bills on the second reading and final passage calendars. They are numbers 210901A, 210686, 210744, 210771, 210861, 210863, 210865, 210869, 210672, and 210925.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the bills just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion carries, and we will consider the consent agenda shortly. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to the resolutions and bills being considered on the consent agendas, the following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210959, 210970, 210862A, 210633, 210680, 210670, 210917, and 210924. Mr. President, all other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Our next segment will be our public comment session, but before we proceed with the consideration of the public comment, we will now take a brief 5-10 minute recess to give our technology professionals an opportunity to connect our speakers today. Thank you very much. Brief recess, and we'll be right back. Thank you. And thank you so much. Now that everyone is connected to the meeting, and before considering the resolution and bills we have before us today, we will consider our public comment session. So our public comment session must concern matters on the second reading and final passage calendars for possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for a public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation and add your name to the list. We will then telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Under ideal circumstances, which we have today, we will give 3 minutes to each speaker. But however, from time to time, the limit may vary based on the volume of calls. In order to be fair to all those wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. So once invited to the meeting and asked to begin your testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony. And when there are 30 seconds remaining at your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. Also reserve the right to limit the number of speakers where repetitious comments are being made on the same subject matter, which could affect callbacks for public comment at any particular meeting. Please be aware that this public meeting is being recorded. Because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. I will now ask Mr. Decker to please read the first name on our list.
Leanne Harvey, commenting on 210671N.
Good morning. State your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Leanne Harvey. I'm calling in today on behalf of Green Building United to express our support of Bill 210862A, amending Section 17111 of the Philadelphia Code to advance municipally owned building standards beyond the current code. The proposed amendments ensure municipally owned buildings are adopting and implementing more stringent energy and environmental performance requirements. These amendments require that the city-owned new construction and major renovations obtain LEED Gold certification, a step up from the previous LEED Silver requirement. By utilizing the LEED standard, or Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, the city can access clear guidelines to ensure projects are considering not only energy, but site selection, water use, materials, waste, health, and more. While it offers a holistic approach to sustainable design, the standard is also verifiable, meaning that the building performance is formally certified. Finally, LEED is an internationally recognized standard with an existing workforce of trained experts. These amendments also transition the administration of the city's green building work from the City Planning Commission to the Office of Sustainability. This provides the city with increased technical expertise and additional tools to guide this effort. However, in order to meet the goals of this ordinance, increased staff capacity, training, and resources should be a key consideration. Green Building United is prepared to lend support, such as education and resources, to ensure staff understand the value of an integrated design process, sustainable design standards, and performance tracking. It is clear that in order for the city to achieve its goal of carbon neutrality by 2050, we must transition away from burning fossil fuels and move towards electrification powered by clean energy. While this legislation is a small step towards this end, it is an important step to help the city lead by example. The actions described in this legislation are only the beginning. We encourage the city to update and prepare robust building guidelines to assist with RFP development, as well as the coordination of architects, engineers, builders, and more as they begin the design process. The city should use these guidelines to encourage design strategies that go even beyond meeting LEED Gold and towards net zero energy, advancing the city's goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. We encourage your support of these amendments, given their potential to improve and extend the lifespan of Philadelphia's owned and managed buildings by creating healthier working conditions for staff, improving safety, and enhancing resiliency. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Mark Zachary, commenting on 210633, 210861, and 210865.
Good morning.
Yes, hello.
State your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
My name is Mark Zachary. I'm a resident of the 7th Councilmanic District, and I'm here to speak in favor of 210633. That's the mixed income overlay. This is a great bill, and it's a great opportunity for the city to increase density and height in a highly transit accessible area. My issue with this is really it's not going to go far enough. You're only adding 7 feet, so in my mind that vision is kind of short. You have a highly transit accessible corridor in the L and American Street with the bus passing there. You could go a lot higher, especially on American Street, and have more density, more activity of the street, more business opportunities for people to open up shops, and more customers for those people, meaning more taxpayers. And you also, with the affordability requirement, you would inherently gain more affordable units. So in my mind, it's just kind of a small vision versus the big vision that the city actually needs. And I think that we're scared of height in this city for some reason. And it's honestly bizarre to me that that adding only 7 feet to an affordability bonus is what we're doing. Much more, that's one story, if that. So you really should be going maybe double the height or maybe even triple the height, and you'd have that many more affordable units. I would encourage the city to be more proactive and have more vision on this issue. So while I applaud this bill, it doesn't go far enough. And that leads me to 210865, which is the opposite of the previous bill, in which it excludes high-density bonuses for affordable housing. So on one hand, you have council members saying, hey, let's increase height and density, and we'll give it based on an affordability bonus. And this bill is doing the exact opposite. So this bill is exclusionary. It harkens back to the 50s and 60s of a legacy of racial and historically exclusionary zoning throughout the country. It's completely regressive and the exact opposite of what the city needs. And it's surprising to me that the other council persons who know that higher density and an affordability requirement is a net positive for the city don't speak out against it. But you know why? It's because of councilmanic prerogative, and you don't want to step on somebody else's toes. Well, we need to get out of the mindset of that if we're going to move forward as a city, in my opinion. And I know I'm not the only person with that opinion. And then that leads me to 210861, the final piece of the pie, the cream of the crop of exclusionary downzoning in this city. And I'll finish you with this. This building could have been saved 7 years ago, and we would have kept a 100-year-old stone church in this city, 5-minute walk from the Bertzell station. But now it's going to be torn down because of a group of few neighbors that were wealthy and got together, influential, to hire a lawyer. So then it's torn down, and now the council person is saying, no, we need to bring this down because of the concerns of a few weird-looking people in this city. It's a very sad tale, and it should be an example of what not to do in this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
The next speaker is Ben Felice, commenting on 210670.
Good morning. State your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Ben Felice. I'm the Director of Operations and Strategy with the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. We represent more than 350 operators in Philly and nearly 4,000 members statewide. We are extremely appreciative of Councilmember Parker's diligent and focused efforts to help create a sustainable path forward for restaurants that are trying to operate and navigate a totally new economy. The only thing that's been predictable for restaurants the last 18 months is the constant unpredictability. That is why PRLA supports Councilmember Parker's bill 210670 as amended, which would provide certainty for restaurants in the city at a time when they're still trying to recover and many fight to stay open and profitable as winter trickles in. Councilmember Parker introducing this legislation has served as a breath of fresh air for many of our members who tell us this helps their path forward clearer and somewhat more predictable. The legislation keeps in place an option for restaurants to have access to these services at the current cap, 10% on delivery and 5% on marketing services and other fees. If restaurants want to opt out of that cap and opt into a more premium service with any of these companies, they can do so, and they'd be able to do so immediately. What we've seen in other cities is that some of these third-party companies have created tiered pricing models across the nation. In those cases, operators can stay at a capped rate if they want basic services, but if they like to expand those services to choose more premium options, they can work with the third-party apps to do so. Many restaurants operate at a 2 to 7% profit margin. At a time when many people have been forced to deliver and provide takeout, it's not sustainable for them to partner with companies that take more revenue and fees than the restaurant is making in profit. This legislation allows those restaurants to stay at the current cap. It's important that I emphasize that PROA, at the request of Councilmember Parker, really tried to work closely with these third-party companies that operate in Philly. Some have reminded us of the lawsuits on this issue that are playing out in other states that they have filed. Nonetheless, while this legislation may not be exactly what everyone wanted, it is, however, a fair and reasonable path forward, not only for restaurants, but we believe for our third-party partners as well. Councilmember Parker did a terrific job finding a middle ground on this. This is a win for all restaurants, large, small, franchises, independents, and for those operations minority-owned, who may see significant value in a locked rate. It's also a win for the many restaurants out there that may want to opt in for more premium contracts. Lastly, it's a win for third-party companies that are looking to expand services and operations in Philadelphia as well. We want to thank Uber, DoorDash, and Grubhub for working with PROA the last couple of months, for sharing their perspective on this, and for working with our members to establish a fair proposal for everyone. We also want to thank Councilmember Parker for her willingness to take on such a tough issue and for her efforts to help save restaurants in Philly at a time when they need it the most. Lastly, we want to thank City Council in general. You have all worked closely with PROA the last couple of months, even years, to help our members not only survive the pandemic, but to provide them with some certainty as they recover operations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
Excuse me, Council President.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, I have to request a leave of absence and want to be voted aye on all bills and resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman Lee. Shall be granted. Let the record reflect Councilman is voting aye on all bills and resolutions. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Council President.
The remaining speakers on the list, Mr. President, have either declined to speak or could not be reached.
Okay. It's unfortunate. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Decker. That will conclude our public comment session for today. And we will now move to our calendar. So now we're going to consider our resolution consent agenda, and I would ask Mr. Decker to please read the titles of all the resolutions on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the resolution on the resolution consent agenda. Upon such an objection and without debate, the resolution will be immediately removed from the resolution consent agenda and placed on today's regular final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, you now read the titles of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Resolution number 210962, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 3119 North 35th Street, located in the 4th Councilmanic District. Resolution number 210963, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2224 Wilder Street and 2715 Annan Street, located in the 2nd Councilmanic District. Resolution number 210964, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1932 South Salford Street, located in the 2nd Councilmanic District. Resolution number 210965, entitled a resolution honoring American Legion Lincoln Post 89 for its service to the veterans of South Philadelphia and the broader community, and for making history as the first American Legion post in Philadelphia for African Americans. Resolution number 210967, entitled a resolution authorizing hearings by the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to examine diversity and inclusion in contracting by the city and related public sector agencies, including the School District of Philadelphia, the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, and the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation. Resolution number 210968, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 167 East Lippincott Street 1922, 1938, 1942, 1944, 1946, 1950, 1952, 1954, 1956 North 3rd Street, 1923, 1927, 1934, 1935 North 4th Street, 1925 North 5th Street, 301, 303, 305, 307, 309, 433, 437, 537 West Burke Street, 2004, 2015 North Bodine Street, 401, 405, 407 West Houston Street, 1851, 1916, 1922, 1936, 1940 North Leithcow Street, 313, 421 West Norris Street, 1910, 1923, 1926, 1927, 1930, 1931, 1936, 1951, 1952, 1954, 1958, and 1961 North Oriana Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District. Resolution number 210969, entitled a resolution recognizing the Community Design Collaborative on the 30th anniversary of its founding. Resolution number 210972, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 3rd Councilmanic District. Resolution number 210973, entitled a resolution honoring and congratulating Champion of the Week, the Philadelphia Phillies' Bryce Harper, on capturing his 2nd National League's MVP award and becoming the 6th Philly to win baseball's most prestigious award. Resolution number 210974, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2501, 2855, 2857 Amber Street, 2143, 2155, 2157 East Birch Street, 2134, 2172 East Cambria Street, 2103, 2107 East Cumberland Street, 2107 East Dakota Street, 2478, 2480 Emerald Street, 2022 East Fletcher Street, 1929, 1935, 1943, 2215 through 17 East Harold Street, 2637, 2639, 2643, 2645, 2649 Janney Street, 2536 Jasper Street, 2539, 2641, 2643, 2653 Kensington Avenue, 2068 East Monmouth Street, 1844 East Oakdale Street, 2144, 2151, 2153, 2156 East Orleans Street, 2646, 2658 Ritter Street, 2089 East Somerset Street, 2106, 2133, 2135, 2250, 2252 East William Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District. Resolution number 210975, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2148, 2150, 2154, 2156 East Birch Street, 2032 East Lehigh Avenue, 2055, 2057 East Rush Street, 2154, 2155, 2156, 2157, 2158, 2159, 2160, 2161 East Stella Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District. Resolution number 210976, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1739, 2215 South 15th Street, 1919 South 6th Street, 2612 North 9th Street, South 9th Street, 411, 418, 424, 432, 434, 624, 626 Cantrell Street, 424, 426 Mercy Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District. And resolution number 210977, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 1st Councilmanic District, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion to adopt each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second that each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and each of the resolution on the resolution consent agenda has been adopted. We will now consider today's bill consent agenda. I would ask the clerk to please read the titles of all the bills on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the bill on the consent agenda. Upon such an objection, without debate, the bill will be immediately removed from the consent agenda and placed on our regular final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, please now read all the titles of the bills on the consent agenda.
One moment, Mr. President.
Okay.
Bill number 210901A, entitled an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2022 from the general fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the water fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and the grants revenue fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, to the general fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and the water fund, certain all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. And bill number 210686, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Walnut Street, 9th Street, Locust Street, and 10th Street. And bill number 210744, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Germania Street, Arundel Avenue, Delaware Avenue, and Linden Avenue. Bill number 210771, entitled an ordinance authorizing the water commissioner on behalf of the city to enter into an agreement between the city and the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to act as the city's agent to include and incorporate water department identified green stormwater infrastructure projects in certain construction and improvement projects in and around the city on properties owned by the city, including with the prior written consent and approval of the district council person where the rebuild project is located. Those projects arising out of the city's rebuilding community infrastructure or rebuild program. And bill number 210861, entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain portions of land located within an area bounded by Burke Street, Memphis Street, Wilt Street, and Tulip Street. And bill number 210863, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Huntington Street, Howard Street, Susquehanna Avenue, American Street, Jefferson Street, and 6th Street. And bill number 210865, entitled an ordinance amending section 14514 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled FNE Far Northeast Overlay District, to prohibit eligibility for floor area, height, and dwelling unit bonuses, to increase minimum parking requirements. And bill number 210869, entitled an ordinance amending section 14525 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled SNM South 9th Street Market Overlay District, to clarify existing provisions. And bill number 210672, entitled an ordinance amending section 9207 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Motor Vehicle Repairs, to prohibit the use of city streets for the sale or storage of motor vehicles. Bill number 210925, entitled an ordinance authorizing the procurement commissioner to enter into agreements to purchase electricity, natural gas, and motor fuel for use by the city in city facilities and vehicles, including agreements that obligate payment for delivery of such energy supplies in future fiscal years, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. These bills have been read on 2 different days. Request for each bill now. Shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll, and upon being called, each council member shall vote aye on each of the bills, nay on each of the bills, or indicate those bills for which the member is voting aye, or those bills for which the member is voting nay. Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Dom.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Green.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Johnson is voting aye on all bills. Councilman Jones.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman O.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye on all bills.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye on all bills.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye on all bills.
Council President Clark.
Aye on all bills. The majority of all members having voted in the affirmative in each of the bills on the consent agenda are passed. We'll now consider the bills and resolutions on a regular second reading and final passage calendar. And Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-959.
A resolution honoring and congratulating Yasmin Sullivan for winning the 2001 Bet Soul Train Music Award for Best New Album for her critically acclaimed EP, Ho's Tales.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-970.
A resolution calling on Mayor James F. Kennedy and his administration of the City of Philadelphia to establish and implement an academic expert advisory team and its selection and evaluation of recipients of the Anti-Violence Community Expansion Grant Program and other anti-violence efforts during fiscal year 2022 and beyond.
Chair recognizes Councilman Don for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer an amendment to resolution number 210970. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move the adoption of the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second that the amendment to resolution number 210970 be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and resolution has been amended. Chair again recognizes Councilman Dom for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, aye. Ayes have it, resolution is adopted. Clerk, will please read the title of bill number 210862A.
An ordinance amending section 17111 entitled Energy Efficiency and Environmental Design and Construction of Buildings to update requirements and make technical changes.
This bill has been read on 2 different days. Shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gardier. Councilwoman Gardier.
Aye. Sorry.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson is voting aye. Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Mr. Decker, did we miss one council member? Didn't respond?
I
It didn't
believe
respond.
I called all names, Mr. President.
Yeah, well, okay, I thought one member didn't respond. Okay, we're still. All right, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members haven't voted in the affirmative. The bill passes. Thank you very much. Mr. Decker, please read 210633.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by amending certain provisions of Chapter 14500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by creating the MIH Mixed Income Neighborhoods Overlay District, by revising certain provisions of Chapter 14702 entitled Floor Area Height and Dwelling Unit Density Bonuses.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier for an amendment to bill number 210633.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to Bill number 210633. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and Bill number 210633 has been amended. Bill number 210633 as amended is placed on the final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210680.
An ordinance amending section 21-1203 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Appointments to Citizens Police Oversight Commission by revising the qualifications for appointment.
This bill has been read on two different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Nay.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Nay.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Nay.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson is voting aye. Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas. Councilman
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 14, the nays are 3. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210670.
An ordinance amending Chapter 95100 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Food Delivery Services to modify the limitation on fees charged to food service establishments.
This bill has been read on two different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
You're on mute, Councilwoman.
Aye. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson is voting aye. Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
No.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye. Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 16 and nays are 1. The majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210917.
An ordinance adding a new chapter 95700 entitled Leasing of Commercial Property to require commercial lessors to provide certain disclosures before entering lease agreements and to provide related protections to tenants.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for an amendment to Bill number 210917.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to Bill number 210917. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. This bill number 210917 has been amended. Bill number 210917 as amended will be placed on the following pass-through calendar at the next session of council. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210924.
An ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Procurement and the Chief Executive Officer, Philadelphia International Airport, on behalf of the City of Philadelphia, to enter into a concession agreement with Kale Info Solutions Incorporated for the implementation and operation of an airport cargo community system for the Philadelphia International Airport.
Thank you. This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gaudier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson is voting aye. Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution authorizing the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention to conduct hearings to examine the correlation between domestic violence and gun violence, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of Councilmember Johnson, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
Mr. President,
Sorry.
Mr. President, I made an error during the consent agenda for resolutions and read resolution number 210967, which was called up correctly, but read the wrong title. If we could call up resolution number 210967 and read the title correctly and give the members the opportunity to do a voice vote on the correct resolution.
Okay. You say that was on the consent agenda?
It was supposed to be on the consent agenda,
Okay.
210967, but I read the wrong title. I read the title of a resolution that's been adopted for a week now.
What was the title?
The title that I read was authorizing hearings by the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to examine diversity and inclusion in contracting by the city and related public sector agencies, including the School District of Philadelphia, the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, and the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation. That resolution has already been adopted, Mr. President.
Okay. Okay, well, for the record. So it was on the consent agenda and it should have been on what? I mean, I'm trying to understand.
The resolution was supposed to be on the consent agenda,
Right.
and I read the correct number, but the incorrect title.
All right.
So that was the incorrect title. I would like to read the
Let's do that now. Let's clear it up.
resolution number 210967, entitled a resolution recognizing Ryan Boyer, business manager of Laborers District Council of Metropolitan Philadelphia and vicinity, for making history as the first African American business manager of the Philadelphia Building Trades Council.
Okay, and who was the sponsor?
Councilman Johnson.
Councilman, you said Johnson?
Councilman Johnson, yes, Mr. President.
Okay, so Councilwoman Parker, let's just make a motion.
Yes, on behalf of Councilmember Johnson, I move for the adoption of the resolution, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of said resolution?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and the resolution is now adopted officially. Thank you.
I apologize for the error, Mr. President.
No problem, Mr. Decker.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar.
Few and far between, if any. Does that conclude all our resolutions, Mr. Decker?
It does, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And we will now move to our speeches at the conclusion of our calendar today. And prior to recognizing speeches, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft's Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this particular purpose. With that said, speeches on behalf of the minority.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, sir. I wanted to interject to let you know that because I'm using audio from my phone, I cannot type in the chat area, sir. So when it comes to the majority, I would like to be recognized, Mr. President.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilwoman. No speeches on behalf of the minority. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I want to first say thank you to all of the people who worked very diligently on a Citizens Police Oversight Committee. I did vote yes on it today, but I do want to put on the record some of my concerns and how I was a little reluctant to vote yes. I do think that we have to monitor what we're doing as it relates to looking at the long-term ramifications of the legislation, specifically looking at the fact that it's a citizens oversight, and we want to make sure that we always keep ourselves in a position where constituents are the majority of the people who are on there, constituents are the folks in leadership, and put us in a position where it's true citizens oversight and it's true opportunities for constituents to be able to have a say-so. I do commend all of the people who worked very hard for this over the years. This is something that did not just happen overnight, from the ballot initiative to the great work that was done by a lot of people behind the scenes. And I do know there are a lot of citizens and community-based organizations who's been fighting for this as well. In the midst of thinking about my vote, I actually was persuaded by some of the words that Councilmember Bass said to me when I was looking to pass driving equality. And what Councilmember Bass said is that I'm trusting you with this one, Councilman. I'm not in 100% agreement with everything in it, but I respect the hard work you've done, and I trust that you're going to monitor it to assure that we get it right. So in the same spirit of my colleague, Councilmember Bass, Councilmember Jones, and others, I appreciate your leadership. We're trusting you with this one, and we're going to monitor it and work with you and your entire team to make sure that we get it right. So I'm excited to see what this committee is going to produce as it relates to who gets recommended for the Oversight Committee. I did communicate my concerns. I do not see those concerns foreseeing themselves in the near future because I am well aware of the intentions of the people who are on the selection committee as well as my colleagues on council as well. So thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to put my thoughts on the record, Council President. You know, I rarely do this about someone else's legislation, but this is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I know a lot of my colleagues have been doing what we can to improve the relationships and the trust factor between communities of color, poor communities, and law enforcement, because we know that that's the direction that we need to go in to improve our city. So thank you for the opportunity, Council President. Thank you to the bill sponsor, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody.
Thank you so much, Councilman, and thank you always for your thoughtful consideration of not only the work you do, but your input as it relates to work that others do. We really appreciate your thoughtful process. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Council President. Good morning, everyone. Today, I introduced a resolution designating December 21st as National Homeless Persons Memorial Day in the city of Philadelphia. This is a day that's recognized on or around the first day of winter, the longest night of the year, by the National Coalition for the Homeless and by more than 100 cities around the United States. While much progress has been made to combat homelessness, this is a stubborn crisis that continues to impact thousands of Philadelphians on an annual basis. And as long as that's the case, it's imperative that we continue to speak out about the struggles faced by people who experience homelessness, as well as poverty and addiction, which all too often are intersecting challenges. Here in Philadelphia, Project Home, a massively impactful organization that does vital work year-round to lift people out of homelessness and connect them with medical care, employment, and educational opportunities, is the organizer for our local Memorial Day. Each year, hundreds of Philadelphians gather to remember their homeless and formerly homeless friends, neighbors, and loved ones who have died, and to call for an end to homelessness and poverty in our city and in our country. On December 21st, please join us to remember the hundreds of Philadelphians who experienced homelessness and died in 2021. And please join us to recommit to building a world in which everyone is safely housed. Project Home is working to gather the names of Philadelphians who experienced homelessness who we lost in 2021. If you have a name to submit, please email memorial@projecthome.org by Monday, December 13th. For more information, visit Homeless Memorial Philly on Facebook and Instagram or HMD Philly on Twitter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you for your hard work on that very important issue. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I first want to start with commending our whip, Curtis Jones, his staff, Samantha, and all members of the team for the very hard work that they did on the Citizens Police Oversight Committee. I also want to commend Council Member Thomas for sharing very publicly his concerns about how we amended the legislation, and then him referencing Council Member Bass, because what he just did was affirmed very publicly the hashing out, the debate, the critical thinking that we do behind the scenes, challenging each other and questioning the work and trying to make sure that we do the best, the very best that we can in the interests of the people in the city of Philadelphia. And so I want to say thank you to each of them. Now, Mr. President, I want to give some comments on Bill number 210670, which is the third-party delivery bill. For members of the viewing public, I want you to know that this bill, in essence, builds on legislation that this city council passed during the COVID-19 pandemic that limited the maximum fee that third-party food delivery companies like Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats, that they could charge to their partner restaurants. Now, for people who are watching, you may recall that when the pandemic first hit in 2020, many restaurants were suddenly subject to delivery fees that went as high as 30, even 40%. And Councilmember Jones had a restaurant that was in the 4th district, and Councilmember Squilla had a restaurant in his district who spoke about how these high fees almost made it impossible for them to do their work. They burdened restaurants, and they were already struggling for business due to lockdown orders, and they needed to establish an online presence, in essence, to remain successful. So the legislation that I spearheaded last year, what it did was it capped the fees to 10% for delivery and 5% for other fees like marketing. So for a total of 15% per order, and for the duration of the declared public health emergency, and then 90 days thereafter. Now, while we are obviously still in a public health emergency, especially with a new variant breathing down our necks, I wanted to introduce new legislation that would speak to what should happen as we move out of the pandemic. Now, yes, it's true. Other cities have already done legislation similar to what we voted on today, with several of them implementing permanent fee caps and some allowing for a tier structure. When crafting this legislation, and I have to note this for the record, I was also hyper aware that as the restaurants climb out of the pandemic, it is not as if they will be fully recovered on the day that the public health emergency ends. So in reality, it may take years for the restaurant industry, as well as the entire hospitality industry, to recover from this pandemic. Bill number 210670, as introduced and amended, would have made a 15% total fee cap permanent. It also maintains a clause from the original legislation clarifying that it is unlawful for third-party food delivery services to reduce the compensation rates paid to the service delivery drivers. Like some of us know them as dashers, or garnish their gratuities as a result of the fee cap. So this can't be passed on to the workers who are using this opportunity to work for these third-party companies to make ends meet. In other cities where fee caps have been made permanent, such as New York City and San Francisco, some of the third-party food delivery services, they sued the cities. And these lawsuits, they are still playing out. So what we tried to do with this legislation, Mr. President, and working with our law department, have to thank our solicitor and every member of the law department staff. I want to be clear that we want to avoid that kind of lawsuit here in Philadelphia. And so after the introduction of the bill, and I thank Ben from PRLA for mentioning it, along with Andrew Zielinski, they met with the various third-party delivery companies, and my instruction was to try to find a compromise. Mr. President, Harrisburg kicked in. Can't do it without talking to people. And they sat down and they did it. Amendments to bill number 210670, they were reached after extensive conversations with the restaurant industry and these third-party delivery companies, and they met in October and November. And the legislation, which was amended in committee, and also today, it will maintain a 15% total fee cap for restaurants that choose it. But listen, it will also allow restaurants to opt out of that, or opt out of that cap, and actually go into a higher fee tier in return for additional services beyond basic delivery and marketing. Now, some of the third-party delivery companies, they're still not totally happy with where this bill ended up. And as Council Member Squilla often notes, when that's the case, you did something right. They are still trying to frame the amended bill as a permanent fee cap. And even though we give restaurants the choice now to move up to a higher fee tier, they're still trying to couch it that way. But Philly, I'm not swallowing that. In crafting these amendments, I wanted to avoid a situation like what happened in the past, where a restaurant would be surprised and essentially forced into a higher tier. They were told something like, listen to this, based on your volume of sales and or price points, we're now going to take 30% instead of the 20% that you signed up at. Not going to do that to Philly restaurants. We won't allow it. With this legislation, restaurants are going to be guaranteed a 15% fee cap. And listen, if that is what they choose, choice here is the operative word. And I do believe that some restaurants, they're going to choose to move up into the higher fee tier in return for additional services that go beyond the basic delivery and marketing. And one final thought, my office and Rachel Meadows and Hillary and Kiasha and the entire team, along with PRLA, they negotiated with third-party delivery companies, guess what, in good faith. So I hope we can avoid a lawsuit, but for those who have been sort of kind of trying to hold that over our heads, when council passed lost and stolen gun legislation here in Philadelphia, although it was not enforced by the district attorney at that time because they said it was preempted by state law. I was in Harrisburg fighting no matter what that law said. So if you're going to sue, you sue, but our law department has told us that they are prepared to fight. I also don't want to see that bottom tier, the 15% tier, turn into like a substandard tier where restaurants essentially like feel like they're being forced to choose a higher tier if they just want the basic services. So for the record, we're going to be watching the implementation of this new legislation like hawks, right? Like white on rice. And trust me, we're going to hear from the restaurants as soon as something is not going right. And I believe we can move forward in a way that's beneficial for restaurants. But I also want this to work for third-party delivery companies because I have a lot of friends and family and constituents who they work for these companies. And this is how they are earning, income and revenue to keep their households going. But we won't let you gouge our restaurant industry or our people. Thank you so very much, Mr. President and colleagues, for your leeway you provided.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We had very good lawyers, both on our staff and in the law department. I think that concludes our speeches on behalf of the minority and the majority. And with that, Chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, December 16th, 2021 at 10 a.m.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, December 16th, 2021 at 10 a.m. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it. Those opposed. And the ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Be safe. Thank you all.